Alright, so today we're talking about Shred. I'm going to cover everything from early game to mid game, all the way to late game. What gear you should be using, what you should do if you don't have certain uniques, is the build viable without any uniques whatsoever. I'll be talking about the Spearing Bulls, I'll be talking about the abilities, the Paragon, you name it. So let's start with early game because it's the easiest. Do not play Shred early game. When I say early game, I mean, let's say all the way to level 50, 55, 60. This is the time when Shred starts shining, because you need to make sure that you have the Paragon points required in order to get to a specific Paragon, let's say legendary node, which is located right here. And that legendary node is super important in order for you to be able to spam Shred without running out of spirit constantly. And second of all, you have to make sure that you have found every single legendary aspect. If this is the case, then go ahead and equip everything and use Shred. Now, the mid-game Shred you're about to witness in a second has one main issue. And the main issue is that since you're not going to have any uniques, so not going to have the Tempest Roar, you're going to have something different, for instance this one, and you're not going to have the Waxing Gibois, you're going to have this one. If this is the case, then you won't be able to use Storm Strike. Once you use your ultimate, you won't be able to use Storm Strike, so you're basically forced to use Claws. And Claws are not really that great. They don't give you 25% damage reduction, but there is another thing that they don't do that's really important. They don't make the enemy vulnerable, which is unfortunate. So you have just one source of vulnerability, and this is the Exploit glyph. If you haven't seen it, it's right here. It's a must for more or less every single build. I don't know where I put it here. Was it here or there? There you go, Exploit glyph. So every single time when you hit somebody, they're vulnerable for 3 seconds. Apart from that, the build is quite good. Let's see a footage of it.
Wait a minute. Not ready yet.
Alright, so if I have to describe the build piece by piece. Currently, you have 15% damage reduction from the head and 40.6% cooldown reduction. That's a must. The cooldown reduction is the most important thing from the helmet. When it comes to the armor, you don't need this one. You can equip this armor, which makes sure that the debilitating row is a werewolf skill, and it will immobilize poison enemies. So in a way, if you use your ultimate and then you follow by debilitating row, it literally feels like Poison Creeper. It's incredible. So this one, really good. Focus on life, damage reduction and armor. That's it. When it comes to the gauntlets, This is self-explanatory. You need 4 ranks of Shred, you need critical strike chance, attack speed, and the 4th one, whatever. And I decided to get the lightning piece, the lightning aspect, because the poison aspect I simply don't like. I tried it, even though they buffed it, I just don't like it. In my opinion, this one is much better against bosses. And the biggest problem, once again, the biggest problem of running Shred without any uniques is the fact that you won't be able to kill the boss that fast, due to the fact that you don't have any other source of vulnerability except for your Paragon glyph exploit. Here, you gain 50% increase to your armor. Make sure that your stats are damage reduction all the way, nothing else matters. Here, Hurricane is active, gain 2+ ranks to your shape-shifting skill, so in a way, you have to use Hurricane before you use your ultimate, because once you use your ultimate, you won't be able to access Hurricane anymore. If you want, you can use any other skill. If you don't like Hurricane, you can even use Rabis. As you saw, I was using Rabis and it was perfectly fine. Even though, quite frankly, Rabis are not really that impactful, but still, in certain situations, they can be quite useful. When it comes to your weapon, vulnerable damage, damage to slow, damage to poison, you name it. When it comes to stats, and here I have imprinted Blood How that gives me critical strike chance. I need to get critical strike chance so that I can kill them faster, and so that I can make sure that my ultimate gets the critical strike damage that they require. So, when it comes to the amulet, the amulet is really important because this is the aspect that you must imprint on your amulet. You need to make sure that you reduce the cost of your Shred. This is the reason why I have imprinted that on my amulet. On top of everything, on your amulet, you require cooldown reduction. It is imperative. I have max roll, you also require damage reduction, movement speed, and the 4th thing that you need, but I don't have unfortunately, is 3 ranks of Envenom passive. This will boost your damage to the sky. Unfortunately, on this amulet, I don't have it. I rerolled it multiple times, but I wasn't lucky enough, I guess. For the rings, vulnerable, damage, critical strike chance, critical strike damage. This is all you need. Also, you're increasing the duration of Grizzly Bear, and you're stacking critical damage. This one is the bread and butter if you doing more than 2 and 3 million damage with Shred. And here, your core skills deal up to 40% increased damage based on the amount of Fortify. This one is also important. When it comes to the offhand, cooldown reduction again. You need to have cooldown reduction in your offhand. This is a must. Basically, this means that every single Shred build, and I mean that every single Shred build must be run by a one-handed weapon, and offhand. For one thing, it gives you weapon speed, so in a way it's something like an attack speed, and you can get up to 25% cooldown reduction by having an offhand, which is absolutely huge. On top of everything, you can get damage reduction from your offhand, critical strike chance, which is cool, and I have another aspect that further increases my attack speed. I'm going to link the basically the build for mid-game, let's call it that way, in the description, but I won't be doing any Paragon tree there, because more or less the Paragon tree is the same. I'm going to link just the equipment, the spirit boons, and the skill tree. And now let's continue to the late game.
I'm not ready.
Alright, so things are looking much better, right? The thing is, for the late game, you have to do two main improvements. First thing first, you need to get this particular unique piece. Is absolutely incredible for your shred build. It makes sure that you can do 2, 3, 4 million damage, especially if you're fighting, let's say, a room full of elites, a lot of trash mobs. You can do insane damage by having this equipment, because to make sure that all your hits will be critical. That's super good. Also, another very important piece is the Tempest Roar. Everything else stays the same, just the Tempest Roar enters the chat. Why is this equipment so important? First thing first, it makes sure that I can use Storm Strike. That's really good. Shred is not a build that will enable you to go ahead and clear very difficult tiers in Nightmare Dungeons. No, you shouldn't do that. 10 to 15, up to 20, absolute maximum that you should attempt. I'm not saying it's impossible to go any further, I'm saying that it's not really worth, and there are better builds to do so. Shred relies on being super effective, super fast. So if you want to do that, you should go to Nightmare Dungeons up to 5 to 10 levels above you. If you're level 100, let's say all the way to 55, 60, but not further, it's not really worth. And Storm Strike though gives you pretty good survivability, but that's not all. There is another thing that Storm Strike does, and it is another way to make sure that the enemy you're fighting is vulnerable. That's huge. Before you having the Storm Tempest Roar, you have no other way to make your enemy vulnerable apart from your glyph. Now there is another way, which is pretty consistent, by the way. So in a way, the most important unique that you must have is this one. The second most important is this one, and the third most important is the Mad Wolf's Glee. Now if you want to use this armor, you won't be able to use the Debilitating Roar during your ultimate, which is a problem, but it's not a big deal if you're fighting, let's say, Helltide, or you're doing easy dungeons, stuff like this, and you're more or less 100% certain you're not going to die, or even if you die, it's going to be just once if you are careless and stuff like this. So this particular piece is important because it will further increase the damage of your shred. You see? 12? 9. There we go. It's pretty cool, right? So, this armor, pretty useful, but once again, use it only when you're 100% certain that you're doing easy content, and all you want to do is go all the way, balls to the wall, damage. That's it. Damage and nothing else. So, more or less, this is it when it comes to the late game. Another thing that you have to consider is that early game, you might want to go from here, there. So you don't need this one, you're going for the critical strike chance. But late game, if you have this particular item, the Giboa, I hope I pronounced it correctly, you don't require this one anymore, so you can go here. 10% attack speed is pretty useful. Everything else stays the same, it doesn't matter whether it's mid-game or late game. And when it comes to the abilities, the only difference is whether you're going to use the Hurricane or not. If you're going to use the Hurricane, then you have to invest something here because it gives you about a second increased duration, which is still something. If you don't use the Hurricane in your mid build, let's say that you want to go for Rabbies, that's fine, you don't need any points here, just go and max out the Rabbies. Important thing to consider is that you need to max out the Debilitating Roar. It is not going to increase the damage reduction, but it's going to decrease the cooldown. That's pretty cool. So you can use it pretty often. And the Debilitating Roar is basically your ticket to safety. You use it, you're almost immortal. So strong ability. If I have to quickly go ahead and show you the skill tree, you're using Storm Strike. That's important both for mid-game and late game. However, mid-game, if you don't have the helmet, I keep forgetting its name, sorry, a Tempest Roar. So if you don't have this helmet, then you have to go for Claw. It's unfortunate, but you have to go for Claw. There is no way around. If you want, you can still use this one, but once you are getting transformed in the werewolf, then you can use only Claw, which is bad. Here, all the way, Shred, make sure that it deals 15% more damage, make sure that you have increased critical chance against close enemies, and make sure you get the movement speed. Here, 15% damage reduction after using a defensive skill, so you get it after you use either Blood Hole or Debilitating Roar. Debilitating Roar should slow the enemy, it's pretty cool, and also Blood Hole should make sure that it gives you attack speed, which you require. You're completely skipping the companions because they suck. Here I'm taking Hurricane with damage reduction, pretty useful. Also, I'm increasing the duration of Hurricane by 1 second. It is what it is. And Venom, this one is pretty awesome. If you manage to find an amulet that gives reduction of the cooldown plus Envenom, 3 ranks, This is the perfect amulet, basically. So make sure you do, because I keep failing to get this perfect amulet. If you go down, I am increasing the amount of fortified I'm getting, and I have 5% chance when I get hit to get fortified. Yeah, what can you do? Here I'm getting additional 12% damage reduction against elites. So if I transform into a werewolf, so just when I use my ultimate, I'm getting additional 12%. So first thing first, let's say that I'm using ultimate, and then I'm using debilitating roll. That more or less means that I will be getting close to 100% damage reduction. That's crazy. And Lupine Ferocity is the bread and butter. Every 6 kill will critically hit and deal 70% increased damage. So the more attack speed you have, the more damage you're going to do, because you'll be triggering this more often. It's absolutely crazy. Alright, when it comes to the Paragon, this one is all the way balls to the wall damage. So you shouldn't go ahead and try to push dungeons, nightmare dungeons, high tier with this particular Paragon tree. Reason being, I completely ignore health. For instance, here, I ignored 4% health. So many ways that I ignored health. Let me see, there are so many other places where I was literally... there we go, another 4% health, just 1 point, but I ignored it. And the reason for that is, I am not going to try and push difficult content with this build. I'll be doing 55, 60 tier Nightmare Dungeon, and I'll be doing Hell Tides, and that's it. So I'll be just happy if I do as much damage as possible. And these are the glyphs that I'll be using. Territorial, it gives me damage to close targets and 10% damage reduction. Here, damage to poisoned enemies, that's beautiful, and poisoning damage effect lasts 33% longer. Here, damage reduction, this is the main reason why I decided to use that. Also, of course, I'm getting damage boost because I'm in werewolf form more or less all the time. I used it right there, so 92.4, that's pretty good. What else did I use? I used Exploit, of course that's self-explanatory, you have to use Exploit more or less every single time. And I use Fang and Claw because I'll be getting the 12% multiplicative damage increase. I'm going to link, of course, the build in the description, but please keep in mind that if you want to adopt this particular Paragon tree, that this is mainly focused on doing damage. For instance, I could get so much tankier, at least when it comes to health, because look at this, I have 9,300 health. That's embarrassing for level 100. Of course, I can get up to 13,000, but the reason is I don't have any health on my rings. I'm all the way damaged, and I almost didn't get any health on my Paragon, which is unfortunate. However, as I mentioned before, this build is not designed to push difficult content, so I'm perfectly fine. I'm not going to do Lit, I'm not going to do tier 80 Nightmare Dungeon. I'll be doing regular dungeons, I'll be doing Nightmare Dungeons all the way 5 to 10 levels above me, and I'll be doing Hell Tides. And with this particular Paragon tree, I believe I'm perfectly fine. The reason why I went all the way here is because I took 15, actually 20% vulnerable damage increase. This is the main reason why I came from here all the way here. If I didn't do that, I could have gotten so much health. For instance, once again, here 4%. Where was this particular place where I just needed 1? Here, another 4%, that's already 8. That's about 700 life, stuff like this. And I'm missing life on my rings. It is what it is, what can you possibly do? Anyways, this is going to be all for me today. I hope you found this video useful. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions about Shred and how you should use it. Once again, the Shred build is an incredibly fast build. You shouldn't use it to push difficult content. It is not designed for difficult content. However, it has been buffed recently, so it performs better, but it's still not as good, for instance, if you compare it to Tornado build. If you want to push dungeons, Shred is not the build, Tornado is. However, if you want to farm and have the time of your life shredding through enemies, then go ahead, use Shred and destroy everybody. See you next time, guys. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe and like. Take care.
Perfect.